Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how to fucking start these besides saying that. Because it's usually the morning or night or what the fuck ever, or whatever time of day it is. But we are in the Chance Nielsen Super Supreme Supercar because we had to switch vehicles for the weekend for undisclosed reasons. Why do I have to tell you? I'm just kidding. But, I want to talk about some shit I rattle off quite often because I don't think I've talked about it yet, which is quite surprising because I talk about this shit all the time. But we're going to talk about some plant medicines. And there's a lot of plant medicines out there. Medicines that heal you, and not just your physical body, but your mind. There's so many plants out there with like basically magical abilities. Like, it seems like magic the way they work, because we've been conditioned and taught that all we need are these pharmaceutical drugs that they prescribe or sell to us. But in reality, the only reason we're seeing these kinds of substances is because they're profitable, and not just for the pharmaceutical companies, but for the insurance companies. That's why insurance doesn't cover a lot of the shit that like regenerative health does, like stem cells and all kinds of shit, peptides. They don't cover all that shit for the reason that they're not profitable. That's why these pharmaceutical companies are trying to turn psychedelics into something that doesn't make you trip, but has the same benefits. Yes, that could be great for some people, but the only reason they're doing this is because they've realized, and they've known for a long time, that these psychedelics are not profitable at all, because one experience can change your life forever. The propaganda around them, that's like, it's like retarded at this point, because there's so many studies showing that these plants can be beneficial, not just psychedelics, but marijuana is included in that category in my brain. But like tobacco, coffee, they're plants, and they're healing plants. They can help us. It's just we abuse some of them, or some of them are illegal, or some don't get used correctly, and so they're deemed either bad or some other kind of fucking words. We always label this shit how we want to see it and the society sees it, but like, we're just projecting onto these things. Like, that's all our brain does, is form the world by what we can rationalize. So if these plants are intelligent and they can actually understand a lot of things, because there's been scientific studies of plants being able to hear water and they'll grow near the water, or slime molds from mycelium, which are the mushrooms. The mushrooms are not what come out of the ground. They're what, not just psychedelic mushrooms, but mushrooms in general are not just what comes out of the ground. That's like the physical form of the mushroom. And the fucking mycelium is what's underneath the ground. And there's miles and miles and miles and miles of it. Like, every footstep you take, you're walking on miles of mycelium underneath your foot. It's insane. They colonized the planet way before humans ever fucking could even fathom the idea of colonizing the planet. They're underneath the ocean. They're everywhere. They can survive extreme heat, extreme cold, and the vacuum of space. It's insane. And so this mycelium has been proven by Japanese scientists that it has intelligence. It can navigate slime mold mazes, and it can navigate, not navigate, but it can create like detailed and structurally sound maps of cities. Like, it can follow along these lines and create a better map than what was there before. And this is all proven by tests in science. You can look this shit up. And what's crazy, the propaganda ran so deep, and it still does, obviously, or they would all be illegal and recreationalized, and they would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Regulated. That way not everybody can get it, because obviously not everybody could do even coffee. Not everybody can have coffee. They might have heart problems. Not everybody can have tobacco. There's certain plants, peanuts. People die for peanuts all the time. Cats, people are allergic to cats. Humans are not the same thing. We are the same thing at the very core of our being, but our physical bodies have these different capabilities and weaknesses and all this shit that makes it so certain people can't do certain things. And it's just how humans are built. But making them all illegal, first of all, the reason that psychedelics, marijuana, for example, were made illegal was because of the hippie movement and the Mexicans. That's why it's called marijuana, because it used to just be called cannabis. We've been doing these plants since the beginning of human civilization, since the beginning of humankind. We've been fucking smoking pipes, all this shit. And to try to say that there's some kind of drug-free society out there, it doesn't work, because this is a drug. The coffee I'm drinking, the alcohol we like to enjoy time to time is a drug. The sugar we eat every single day because it's in all of our food is a drug. Shit, even salt, I think, could be considered a drug, because it affects your consciousness in a certain way. It makes you crave it. Interesting, actually. I've never thought about it like that. It's just like fucking with your dopamine system. That's all substances do. Technology can be considered a drug as well, because it fucks with our dopamine system like a motherfucker. But these psychedelic chemicals, psilocybin, LSD, ayahuasca, all these chemicals, they're just plants that have been here that humans learned to synthesize into something. Not even that, because ayahuasca and I don't like calling them magic mushrooms. They're just mushrooms. They're not magic. They're just part of nature. But they are natural, and same with marijuana. It comes out of the ground. And that's what doesn't make fucking sense. Like, we're not banning trees. We're not fucking banning other plants. Peanuts is a good example, because it grows out of the ground like everything else. It doesn't affect your consciousness in any way, but, well, it kind of does. Because if you're starving and you find some peanuts and you fuck those peanuts up, it's going to affect your consciousness, because your brain was focused on food, now it's focused on something else because you already ate. So I guess peanuts could be considered in the same category, maybe. Like, I understand a drug is something that affects your consciousness. That's kind of a blanket statement, because everything affects our consciousness in some ways, and everything releases chemicals in our brain. We're basically walking drug factories. We create all these endogenous chemicals and endorphins and all this shit, not just in our brain, but in our stomach. And that's what fuels our body. Our brain is literally a chemical organ. So how the fuck are we gonna ban chemicals that alter your consciousness when our consciousness is affected by chemicals every single day? And just because this is some external chemical, then well, here's the reason that they made it illegal. Because the hippie movement was all about dropping out of school because these authoritarians are teaching us weird shit. And it was about people not wanting to go to war because they wanted to love instead of go to war. And all this shit that the government was not fucking with. They're like, hold on, man. We need to go to war for money. And you guys need to go to school so you learn how to work and function in the economy. Which I'm not saying that all that was great. Like, no, we need to stay in school. We need to reform the school so it could teach us better. We need to go to fucking war sometimes. I don't like war, but it's a human necessity sometimes. But the wars we've been fighting the past few, centuries, I guess I shouldn't say centuries, decades, are all bullshit wars, like Vietnam. The war in Cuba was gonna be bullshit. That's why JFK was assassinated. The war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, all these wars are just America fucking around, wasting money, flexing their big ass what's it called? National cock everywhere. There's like, ah, we're the top of the world, motherfucker. And they're just trying to fucking get money and all this shit. And in the process, they're fucking people up and all this shit. That's why nobody wanted to go to war. Well, not nobody, but the hippies didn't want to go to war in the 70s. I'm kind of nervous to talk about this shit because it's still so illegal. But all the top colleges in the country, Johns Hopkins, Stanford, NYU, Harvard, there's more. They're all studying this shit right now. They have tests, they have lab results, they have all this shit. And they all have good results. Except for the fact that they're doing it in a lab setting. Because, and we'll get to that in a second, but I guess I should say, like, these plants have been, like, underneath our human history for the entirety that we've been here. They're like, it's kind of like we forgot. Like, they've been here, we just forgot. It's kind of weird. Because, like, the ancient Greeks were doing it. If you read The Immortality Key by Brian Murarescu, he's done scientific lab results, studies on chalices from ancient Greece, and they've been tested positive for ergot, which is LSD in its fungus form. Shit, where'd I lose my lighter at, Mike? Where'd I lose my lighter at, Mike? I lost my lighter. But regardless, we're gonna have to find it here in a second. Oh, found it. So regardless, what were we talking about? I got distracted. Oh yeah, they've been like creating civilized humans since the beginning of time. It's kind of weird, because naturally we're animals. Naturally we're barbaric. We're like nature. Has nature ever given a fuck about hurting somebody's feelings? Oh no, that poor fox is gonna get mauled by that bear. Nah, nature doesn't give a fuck. Nature's got its own balance going on that fuck, it just is. It exists, and there's no good, bad. It's just happening. Like, you can't call it good or bad. Like, it sucks from our perspective, but if we didn't have this prefrontal cortex and this ability to think like we do, then none of this shit would, like, we wouldn't even think about it. It'd just be part of fucking living. You know what I'm saying? Like, humans have been civilized so far out of nature that we don't even remember where the fuck we came from half the time. For example, try not to burn my fucking lips, but for example, the fact that we buy all of our meat and food from a grocery store, and then when people go hunting, this motherfucker won't like. But when we go hunting, people fucking look at it as, oh no, what are they doing to the animals? But that's how we've been fucking doing it since the beginning of human history. If we didn't fucking hunt back in the day, we would be fucked. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, we need to eat. Like, what are we gonna do? Now that we can go to the store and buy all of our groceries and shit online, we're so spoiled. We're so spoiled that we treat people who do it like we used to. All right, I give up. That thing is not one to light. But we judge people for doing things the way they used to do it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, humans have become so detached from nature. Like, it's like I said in the last podcast, how often do we think about animals like jaguars, bears? Unless we see videos on the internet, we'll think about it for about 5 minutes. Be like, oh, that's a crazy bear, and move on to the next video. But if we had to fucking focus on a bear that was in front of us, we wouldn't just forget and pull out our phone and start scrolling, now would we? We'd fucking be like, oh shit, I need to fight or I need to run. Like, there's no other option when it comes to that type of shit. Nature's so simple, but yet it's so complex. And that's why it's so fascinating. The fact that it all works together in this perfect manner that allows humans to do what we do and to exist. And it gave us basically everything. Like oxygen, food, everything we need to survive is just here. And we've monetized it and turned it into a fucking enterprise, and fucking now we have to pay shit tons of money just to eat, drink, fucking do all this shit. But humans, if we could figure all this shit out, we could get to a point where we're working with nature to not only help the planet thrive, but help humans thrive. Because if we worked alongside nature, and like regenerative farms, for example, they are just creating nature in a closed environment. They're rotating their animals around, no pesticides, none of that shit. They're letting them eat what they're supposed to eat. And these farms have been proven to be super effective, natural meat, healthy. And these animals are they're healthy and they're happy. Like, we could do that with everything. Like, I don't understand why we would want short-term profit for long-term pain when we can have short-term pain for long-term profit. Because if we think about it in the long scope of things, if we want the human race to survive for fucking, million years, billion years, if we want to survive without getting wiped out, first of all, we need to get the fuck off this planet. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it, because we're in an asteroid belt. We could constantly be hit by shit. The planet is going to get fucked up. Even if all that shit doesn't happen, the sun's going to go out one day. So we need to figure out how to travel through space-time quickly. But we also need to learn how to treat this planet with respect before we do that. Because if we just go out and colonize Mars, colonize the moon, how the fuck are we going to start? I've never thought about this. It just popped in my head literally as I'm talking. But how the fuck are we going to even start to colonize another planet if we're going to start using the resources like we do here? Like, oh, I'm just going to keep eating all the time. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing that. We're going to have to discipline ourselves. We're going to have to treat the planets with respect if we want to, if we're going to survive on them. Like, Earth is perfect for us, yet we're trying to leave it all the time because we don't want to fix what the fuck we've done. And it would only take a few generations of people to stop fucking around to get this shit back to where it needs to be. But that's besides the point. The reason I'm talking about nature and shit is because these plants are part of nature. And they've been in civilization since the beginning of it. Not only that, they've been there since before that. And these plants open up your mind, and they open up the part of the human that has been lost. They open up that door in your brain that you thought you could not get back into. It like cleans your mind out to reveal the shit that you lost a long time ago. If that makes sense. You can't really explain these experiences. Like, they're ineffable. It's like the Bible talks about. And that's another fucking thing. That's the best example, actually, for them being in our civilization since the beginning of time. most religions probably came from these fucking plants, because we used to do them all the time. They were available and free everywhere. There was no law saying you couldn't. So why the fuck wouldn't we? And we turned it into a ceremony. Peyote, for example. Look at the Native Americans. They're still allowed to do it. It's a psychedelic. And so most religions came from this shit. And we just lost that part that it gave us. Like, now we just have books and texts and we can't really feel it anymore, because it's been just washed down through generation after generation of just repeating the same old bullshit rather than having the experience yourself, because you can't know anything about God. Like, whatever God is, you can't know anything about it. You can't see it. You can't hear it. You can't. None of that is possible because it's ineffable. Like, it's unheard of. It's unknowing. Like, you can't know anything mentally about it. It's an experience and a feeling. Like, everybody talks about in like religions and stuff about meeting God. Like, they talk about meeting whatever God is and having these experiences. That's why we can't get what we're trying to get through text, because it's not going to happen. It's a feeling. You have to feel it. Whether it be through mundane, normal experiences, through a long period of time where you realize, oh shit, maybe there is some divine intervention, or it happens quickly with some help, whether it be a near-death experience or one of these psychedelic medicines or whatever it may be. I think humans' true purpose is to wake the fuck up and realize what we're doing, because we are destructive. We can be very destructive when we're not fully conscious of what we're doing. And most people are run by their subconscious mind. That's why, like, everybody's so wild, because we have all these tendencies and all these pre-programmed things in our brain that we don't even think about or know about from our childhood, from society, from all this shit that has been programmed into us since the beginning of our life. And we have to work our entire life to break out of this shit. And it's not an easy process. And that's where these plants come in sometimes, is they break you out of these loops and these thought processes that are unhealthy and not working for you. And it's not just a silver bullet. It doesn't just happen. I gotta go on a side tangent. Chance's wheel is like perfect for podcasting. I just set this motherfucker up on the wheel and we're good to go. But that's besides the point. It's not a silver bullet. The set and setting matter. So where you're at, what you're doing, who you're with, all of that shit. How you feel before and after. What you have in your head before and after. Because that's what it uses, is what's in your head already. To make you realize you've been fucking up. Like, oh shit. All this shit that I've been taught links together like this. And then, oh, I just didn't realize this before. And that's why I like to think about, like, stupid shit. It seems stupid to outside people, but like, oh, mailbox. Like, oh, that's crazy that we sit here and get our mail delivered every day. And it's always different things like bills and coupons and all this shit. And it's been set up for a little while now. And like, it's crazy to think about, because we're just animals. We're like a fucking monkey that just somehow got to this certain point. Now we're getting mail delivered every day. Like, I like to think about simple, normal shit in a different way, because it opens your mind and changes your perspective. It allows you to learn more things about things you already know, because our brain's always trying to simplify things down to shit that makes sense. Like, oh, mailbox, mail. House, you live in it. Fridge, you would get food from it. But like, if you think about it a lot deeper than that, the history, the science of how things work and all this shit, it's so crazy. Because nature is involved in all of it. That's all humans are doing, is harnessing the power of nature to fucking do all this shit that we want to do. And these plant medicines have been helping us throughout history. It's just the fact that we use them in party settings and not in a therapeutic setting where you can heal your mind and body. It's what are the words I'm looking for? And that's why it's considered that way. It's considered like a bad thing and it's gonna mess up your mind and all this shit. But it's because we don't use it properly. It's like using alcohol when you're at work. Of course you're not gonna perform work well. Of course you're gonna be fucking stupid. Of course you're gonna hurt yourself. Because that's not where that substance is supposed to be used. These substances are not supposed to be used all the time and not supposed to be used in any setting. They're supposed to be used in specific settings to where it can help us with the least amount of substance, whether it be coffee, sugar, whatever it is, with the maximum amount of benefit. Because we're trying to get to a point where we're not abusing all this shit. Technology especially, sugar especially, and not just that, but we're trying to get to a point where we can evolve into something bigger, where we could be the protectors of this planet and this solar system and maybe even this galaxy, if we can get to that point where we get out of our own human bullshit. Because if we can't get out of it and we end up destroying it or ourselves, then we done goofed, because we're the only ones who have the ability to protect this planet and everything on it, and even the solar system. Because we can build the tools and technologies and think it through to where we can put everything in a better spot than it was before. Because no other animal on this planet can do that. And I think these substances can help us if we use them correctly. And I'm not advocating that everybody or anybody should do it, really. It's personal fucking responsibility, personal preference, all that shit. Not just that, but self-knowledge. You need to have a lot of information. And that's the problem with most of these substances. We don't get taught about them. We just get told, no, that's naughty. We don't do that. No, 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 no. We're taught about like kids our entire lives. Like, no, that's no, don't do that. That's not, I'll throw you in timeout. You better knock it off. And that's how we get talked to our entire lives. It's funny, but it's not funny. Because it's like, we're adults, aren't we? And why the fuck are grown adults telling other grown adults what to do as long as they're not hurting themselves, others, or infringing on others' rights? And that's exactly what is in our Bill of Rights. We're guaranteed life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, as long as we don't infringe on the rights of others. Those three fucking main rights: their liberty, their life, and their pursuit of happiness. See, but that, now that I'm thinking about it like that, the fact that these substances and things are illegal is infringing on the Bill of Rights. We have laws for violent behavior. We have laws for driving while intoxicated. We have laws for public intoxication. We have all these laws in place already. Maybe we'll need a few more when they become regulated and legalized, because obviously this bullshit war on drugs that has been happening since the 70s has not done a goddamn thing. Reagan's campaign of just say no has not done a goddamn thing. Nobody's gonna just say no, especially if the government's telling you. Who the fuck trusts the government, man? Like, I'm not saying all the government's bad. We need it. That shit's important. It's important to have a regulated government, but it's not what the fuck it used to be. The government is supposed to be for the people, by the people, not for the politicians, by the politicians. That's what has happened. They built this thing into an empire where they make all the money and the citizens are just funneling that shit back in, because we have to slave away, we have to work, we have to do all this shit. And I'm not saying that we should be allowed to sit around all day and be lazy fat pieces of shit. Nah. We just need to be doing things that benefit society as a whole and not just benefits the government. And also, we need to fucking take personal responsibility. Like, we need to stop. And that's the main problem with most things. Not just substances, but all the shit that humans do. Nobody takes personal responsibility anymore. We don't take responsibility for what the fuck we do or what we believe or any of that shit. Because we don't want to. We'd rather put it on somebody else. Like, oh no, it was their fault. They fucked up. Or if something goes wrong, then, oh, the government will fix it. Fuck it, I don't have to do nothing. And that's their job. So why would I worry about it? That's where my tax dollars go. Nah, we all have to play our part. Because the government is not just one entity. I mean, it is kind of now. It's an entity of profit and war. But we have to stop just treating that government like it's going to save us all the time. It's not Big Daddy government. In fact, we shouldn't be giving all our rights away just to fucking feel safe, because we're never going to feel safe, no matter how many rights we give away. And the more rights we give away, the less safe we'll feel. I guarantee it, because if you're sitting like China is, where they have no rights, they're scared of the government, they're scared of their neighbors and their friends because they can't trust anybody, because if they say something bad about the government to somebody who they can think they can trust, but they end up not being able to trust because this person rats out on them, then you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to get killed. And that's just how it is there in China. They fucking kill people. Same with Russia. They fucking kill people. If you fucking say some... I don't think this is bad in Russia anymore. I obviously don't know because I don't live there. But in the Soviet Union, they just off people. They don't give a fuck. And that's how our government's starting to get with infringing on our rights all the time. Look at COVID. Look how fast people bend to the government's will because they were scared. And the government knows that shit. And that's why they ban these substances, because people aren't scared when they can think for themselves and they have the proper knowledge to rationalize and reasonably think through problems. When you can problem solve by yourself with common sense, and you could be a responsible, respectful, capable individual, you don't need, like, obviously we need other people, friends, family, all this shit, to feel happy, healthy, and all this shit. But you won't need a fucking somebody over you like, no, don't do that, buddy. You can't do that, because you're already taking care of yourself. So what the fuck do you need somebody else over you telling you, oh, no, you have to do it this way, not this way, because that's unsafe. And if you know it's unsafe, but you're still going to take that risk because there's more benefit in that unsafe practice, like maybe it's cliff jumping, and you're going to fucking use one of those glider suits or whatever. I don't think that's a good example, actually, because I don't know why you would do that. But if that's your thing, nobody's telling... Actually, that is a good example, because nobody's telling them they can't do that. Nobody's telling people they can't skydive, cliff jump, bungee jump, all this shit. We do that, like, actively all the time. People are always doing that shit. Fucking paragliding. All that shit is super dangerous. Maybe even more dangerous than substances themselves in their pure form. Because that's another problem with this war on drugs, is everything's laced with shit or stomped on, like fentanyl, all this shit. And it's all just driven for profit. Like, that's all they care about anymore. Like, I got 2 tickets for parking on the wrong side of the road, apparently. The wrong side of the road. And yeah, there is a rule set in place that I cannot do that on certain snow days. Okay, fine. But the whole reason that's set up is for revenue collection. Because it doesn't go to the fucking courthouse. It goes to the police department. And they're the ones fucking collecting this money. And it's just kind of sad. Like, most people only give a fuck about their paychecks anymore. Like, a lot of officers know marijuana's not dangerous. And, I mean, yeah, for people with schizophrenic tendencies, for a premature prefrontal cortex, somebody who's not developed their brain completely yet, yeah, it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous for certain kinds of people. It's not all safe. Nothing is 100% safe. Nothing is. So they know it's safe for the majority of people, but they're still going after people for it. And that's because the law is in place. The federal government doesn't want to change that law to protect the rights of the people who want to fucking experience that state of mind. God damn, I dropped my lighter again. But I think we just gotta open our minds, man. Everybody's so closed-minded. And I used to be the same way, to where I could only think one certain way. I didn't want to think about anybody else's perspective or how they thought, because I thought I was right. But nobody's 100% right. Everybody's always learning. Everybody's always trying to work through their bullshit, trying to be a better person, trying to just get through life in the best way possible. And that's everybody's goal. And if there, certain substances or certain things could help in a certain fashion, like the reason they're studying all these plants is because they've realized that they have abilities to cure depression, to cure anxiety, to cure PTSD, OCD, end-of-life distress. That's why they're fucking being studied. So if they have been proven time and time again to have benefit, to not be harmful for most people, then why? Besides profit. Because they either can't profit off of it, or they're already getting profit from something else. Because these companies have turned into corporations that are machines. And they're trying to get their bottom line up every year. We need to make more money this year. Next year, we need to make more money, more money, more money, more money, more money. And the only way to keep doing that without making a better product is to fuck the people over. That's the only way. How the fuck else would you get more money? Besides making your product more expensive, or changing these certain things that make it so these people have to spend more money. And then you're making more without doing anything. And that's what these people do. And obviously there's good people in these corporations, in the police department. There's all these good people that are just caught in a machine of fucking money. And they either haven't looked into it, or they have looked into it and they just swallow it and hold on to it, or they have looked into it and they actively voice their opinion, no, this ain't right. And even if they do follow the law, they know it's not right to have to fucking do some certain things. It'd be like arresting somebody for fucking smoking a cigarette while they're driving, or for drinking coffee while they're driving. Nobody's... And I'm not saying that you should be smoking marijuana or doing psychedelics or drinking, none of that shit while you're driving. But that's just an example of how ridiculous things could be, because we can use tobacco and caffeine while we're driving. That's driving while intoxicated. You're not intoxicated like driving on alcohol or certain substance that's psychoactive, but these are psychoactive substances as well. And I forgot I had coffee. Hell yeah. They're just psychoactive in different ways. And the fact that our brain is a chemical organ, and we can operate in society with all these chemicals going through our brain without losing our mind. Most people keep it together, and that's a surprise in itself. Most people keep it together, but not without help from something. Whether it be TikTok, watching your videos, that's how you relax, or drinking coffee, like you like to relax that way. Maybe you like to have a few beers after work or something. Everybody's got something that makes them feel better. And that's how we pursue happiness. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, you're not taking from anybody else, you're not infringing on anybody else's rights. We're all just living and coexisting in a peaceful environment. That's what we should be aiming for. And if certain things can help, then we need to reframe what the fuck we're doing. Because the time is now. There's no other time. This is the best time to be alive in human history. And if we're gonna make some shit happen, we gotta come together and figure this shit out. And stop trying to push everybody apart. And that's what the government does too. It's trying to separate all of us, because then if we can't trust each other, if we can't fucking talk to our neighbors, it's the same thing like I just talked about in China. If you can't trust your neighbors, can't trust your friends, can't trust all these people, everybody's got trust issues nowadays. I got my own. If we can't trust people, then they're going to take us over faster than we can fucking say cheese. Because they're already silently doing it. Like, why the fuck do we... My dad and I talked about this yesterday. Why the fuck are we going to do our taxes and pay our taxes when we pay taxes all year on everything? Not just out of your paychecks, but on the things you buy, on everything. We pay our taxes all year long. And then somehow we got to go pay more taxes and do taxes. And it doesn't make any fucking sense. And I'm not saying not to do your taxes, obviously, because the IRS is a bitch. Even though if you look at their tax record, a lot of money went missing somewhere a couple years in a row, man. Like, who does their taxes? Oh, yeah, the government, IRS does the IRS's taxes. We should probably start looking at those motherfuckers. Because we be paying taxes all the time. But the Pentagon, all these government facilities, money goes missing. What happens? I don't know, man. They're spending money like crazy, though. And that's the only reason everything's so goddamn expensive, is because they don't know how to stop. They don't know how to stop spending money. What the fuck? I think these are coils for Chance's car. But there was a screwdriver in here. Not I, but Chance had one. I got to piss so bad too, but I guess the point of this whole podcast is to come together, man. Love. Be happy. Just find what makes you happy and discipline yourself. Do the things you need to do to be your best version. Because not everybody's going to be babysitting you. The only person who has your back is you, man. Yeah, you have family, friends, and all this shit that can give you their opinions, advice, and help. But when it's just you and you're by yourself and you're in those fucking hellfire demon battles that you need to win in your own mind, all you have is you. And that's why you got to figure out how to fucking take care of yourself and be a responsible, respectable, and admirable adult. And that's what we should all be aiming for. Physically, mentally, spiritually, we should be the best version of who the fuck we can be. And that's where I'm going to end this motherfucker, because I got to piss. All right.